Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics. Look at this beautiful pillow. I absolutely love the country look of this pillow. That looks complicated, but I can't wait to show you how you can make this project in just one day. Now it looks like traditional English paper piecing, but what we've come up with here at Shabby Fabrics is actually a no hand sewing technique of English paper piecing. Let me show you how we do this. The first thing that you'll want to pick up for this project is the actual template that helps you see where you're cutting out on your fabric. Now these products to make the pillow are super affordable, so and they're also a one-time investment, so great to have in your sewing stash some of these templates. So this helps me know where I'm going to be cutting on my actual fabric because I can see through the fabric. That way, if I really want to get very specific on where I'm cutting out on my fabric, I can see what's beneath my template. Now the other thing that you'll want, and subsequently this is the 2-inch 8-pointed star template. Now these are the 2-inch 8-pointed star papers. Trying to see, there's 50 in a package. So I believe there may be more than 50 of these in here, but the great news is they're reusable. So you really only need one package. If you don't want to reuse them twice, just pick up a couple packages. Again, super affordable. Now this is a really fun item. This is the Sew Line fabric glue pen. I'm going to be showing you how to use that today. We also recommend the temporary basting glue, which holds all the pieces down to the background while we're stitching them to our background fabric. So let's get started. Now the sample there was made with Ambleside by Moda Fabrics by Brenda Riddle. She's a friend of mine. Brenda is just a wonderful person, and of course Moda makes fabulous fabric. And the combination of the two is what you're seeing here. It's just a beautiful combination of the Ambleside. We have the Ambleside available in fat 1/8 sets. Those are 9 by 21. We use the blush willow and the rosy red in the project, and just a little bit here, that's a Moda Bella solid. We'll have the number of that solid on our free download pattern. The whole layout and the whole pillow assembly is available as a free download on the Shabby Fabrics website. That's the very bottom of the home page. Plus there's other projects too, so be sure to go there and find lots of inspiration. But for today's project, we use the 3 colorways and a little bit of that Bella Sol that I mentioned. I recommend that you go ahead and pre-starch your fabric. We found that when it's a little bit stiffer, it just goes around the papers a little bit easier. So get your fabric out. I just grabbed a little bit of a strip here, and don't be shy about the sizing here. Just really get in there and get it good and wet. And also it does shrink up the fabric just ever so slightly, which is a good thing because we don't want it to shrink after the fact. We want any shrinkage to happen up front. So I've gone ahead and given this quite a bit of sizing. Now spray starch sizing, I often use them interchangeably. I do find that with starch, I get a little bit of flaking. So it's not the end of the world, but it just can be a little bit messy. And I find that sizing has a little bit less stiffness to it, and I really have never experienced any flaking at all with sizing. So I'm finding I really am enjoying using the sizing more than starch. Okay, now that I've got my, see how good and stiff that is? Let's go ahead, and I've chosen one of the mats that spin, and I'm just gonna cut a piece of that away so you can see the whole thing here. I like that way I don't have to move my template. So now it doesn't really matter whether you're cutting on the front or the back of the fabric. Of course, if you're trying to fussy cut a specific area, you will be looking at the front of the fabric. So you know, this is, I'll just cut it there. I like that area. You'll just get your rotary cutter and you're just going to cut around, just like you're seeing me do here. So very straightforward. Be really careful. Your fingers are fairly close to the blade, so please take your time. Now the other thing that you can do is you could certainly layer your fat quarters, maybe 3 or 4 layers at a time, and cut multiple pieces out at once if you're not trying to fussy cut. So that's another time-saving tip that I've definitely used in when we created this project, in fact. So that's all cut out and ready to go now. So that's the purpose of the template, and I don't know if you can see this, and we'll get a close-up later toward the end of the video, but you can see there's the solid line out here, and that indicates what's going to be showing once those edges are turned around the paper. So anything in the solid line and inside is what's going to be showing on the front of your project. So now that this is ready to go, we'll go ahead and get out one of our paper templates, and as you would expect, this is just going to lay right in there. Now this is where the glue pen comes in, and boy, what a time saver this is, because with traditional English paper piecing, how this normally works is you've got a needle and thread, you're folding this over, you might even be pressing this over, and with a needle and thread you're running basting stitches all around this whole thing. And of course this project that we did in a day would become maybe even a month-long project. So this process really expedites this so that you can be having this beautiful pillow in your home in a day or two, not a month or two. So a little bit of glue just to secure that, just like that. Now I'm going to get the spinning mat out of the way because we certainly don't want to iron or get any glue on that. So at this point you're just going to be applying glue, and with your fingers you're just pulling that over. How simple is that? Same story here. Put a little bit of glue, bring that edge over like this, and you'll just keep progressing. Now I've done one ahead of time, and this is what it looks like. And notice you do have these little points, those little what people call dog ears. Now don't be worried about that. In fact, let me show you. You have a couple options here as far as once you prepare all of your shapes and they look like this, you've got two choices here. You can trim those off and put a little bit of fray check. Here's a little bit of fray check. Very available product. Joann's, Hancock's, Michael's, Walmart, everybody has this. You can trim that off, put a little bit of fray check there just so it doesn't unravel, then take the papers out. Or the other option is if you make sure that the little dog ears are all going in the same direction. Here, I'll bring our background fabric. You can, once you find center, I'm just going to pretend this is center, you can nest one little dog ear, the point on top of that dog ear. So there's a little dog ear. I'll rest that point right on top of that. See how that works? So that's another option for you. So two choices. Leave the little dog ears there and just nest one on top of the other. And as you can see, that works great for the center, but what about out here? Well, I don't like the bulk out there. So while that works for the center, you still have to do something out at the points. And then out at the points, what works really, really well, and as I mentioned, is I lay my scissors to the side like this. And before I even dare remove that paper, because that can potentially unravel that, I'm just going to put a touch of the fray check there. It doesn't take much. Boy, a little bit of fray check goes a long way. Let that just dry. You can just do that and then move on to the next one and move on to the next one and then come back. Once that's completely dry, now I haven't done this point, you're just literally going to very gently pull this back. Now even before that, let's do this. Let's press this one more time. Let's make sure everything is really, really down, because we need it to have the memory of the crease, so when we take the paper out, the crease is still there. So you'll just literally pull this back and you'll start removing the paper. So you can see how that is done. So remove that paper, just like that. And then once that's all the papers are removed, and take your time on this step. It's a tedious step, it's not my favorite step, but of course you need to be very careful about it so that you don't do too much fraying of the fabric there. And then you kind of just form it back to its shape, take it back to your pressing mat, and just press it back into the shape that it was. There you go. And we'll do that on this side. So it's a little bit time consuming, but very, very well worth the time, of course, so that it's right back to its original shape. Okay, now that that's done, we would of course repeat that. When you bring this to the background fabric, what we did with our pillow sample, this is a 24-inch square. Now you could make it any size you want by continuing to add more points. You could add borders. You could make this as small or as big as you want by adding or subtracting the different layers of the English paper piece points. So with this one, we chose a 25.5-inch background, a little bit of extra padding, and we trimmed it down afterward. Fold in half, found our center, and then that's where the temporary basting glue comes in. We went ahead and got started, and of course the point was right in the middle. Let me go ahead and glue down this last one here. Let's get these out of the way. We don't need any of that anymore. Love that glue pen. Boy, that is a great invention. All right, so why don't we do this? I need to also, because we went ahead and trimmed those dog ears off, I need to do that as well. Trim just a little bit here. Put just a little bit of our fray check in there so we don't get any unraveling. Now, of course, this is a pillow. You're really not going to be probably washing this, so the fray check maybe might not even be necessary, but just to be on the safe side. Okay, once that's done, we will use the temporary basting glue. Put a few dots on like this, and we are going to add that to the rest of our 7 stars to complete our 8-pointed star. And isn't that beautiful? It's so fun too to see the project develop as you add the additional layers, because the possibilities, the color combinations are absolutely endless. So now what do we do from here? This is where we now take this to the sewing machine, and the thread you use is key. Now, because you can see that we have a lot of color changes, you can use a coordinating thread, absolutely, or you could use a clear. Now we have the monopoly clear from Superior Threads. That's what I will be using today in the top of the machine. In the bottom, I have, again, a neutral, and I think it's kind of a cream bottom line. It's a very, very thin thread, and that is, again, from Superior. So you'll want to set your machine to a normal stitch length, but on a zigzag, so that when you start sewing, you're just hopping left and right of this line here, and of course around the edges of the diamonds, you're going onto the fabric, just onto the background, onto the fabric, just onto the background, so that, and can you even see? This was how we did this pellet. We did this with the clear, and you cannot see the threads. Unless you really, 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 really got up there so close, you just don't see them. So that's what makes it so exciting, is it looks like it was hand sewn, but it was done by machine and done in literally a day. So let me take it to the sewing machine. I want you to see this in action so that you can repeat this at home. So let's get in there. Boy, it's so thin, I can't even really see the thread right now. Yep, I think we are threaded. Okay, so I have this on a zigzag. Now, do this, make sure. Get a scrap piece of fabric for sure. Go ahead and do a zigzag and make sure it's the stitch length you want, it's the width you want, it's the tension you want. So go ahead and make sure that is exactly on the settings that will produce the results that you're looking for. Now, where you start, I guess that's your preference. I could start here. Let me show you what I'm looking at. I can start here and go all the way across, and then maybe go around, and then come. There is no real I had no real strategy of the best place to start. The main thing is that everything just gets sewn down. When I start this project, I like to drop the needle where I want to absolutely start. I've tested it on a separate piece of fabric, and this is the width. Now we're just hopping left and right of that line. I could go even a little bit narrower, because you're just trying to get it. Just on the, and then I can turn and pivot. Now here, because I'm not trying to hop necessarily all the way from this fabric all the way to the other, I would narrow it and continue. But you can see, in fact, I'll just end it there. You can see, just from what I've done thus far with that monopoly, how you really, where did I even sew? How you really can't see that there's really anything there at all. And then as far as finishing the pillow, of course, that's your choice. On the back of this pillow here, we just did a little envelope closure here, and those instructions will also be included on the free download. So isn't that just a fantastic way to have a very sophisticated look? English paper piecing is absolutely classic, and now you can do it in days, not weeks or months. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube to see more fun DIY videos from Shabby Fabrics.